This series of bonus podcast episodes were taken from my 9-hour live stream on the 15th of April 2020. I interviewed 16 speakers back to back whilst on lockdown from the coronavirus pandemic, and I thought I would edit them just for you. Hope you enjoy and stay safe, my friends. So how's things going from your point of view of working remotely then? Because obviously you're the telephone assassin, right? So
I'm
telephone.
From a business perspective, I'm suffering like the rest of us. I'll be honest with you, I had sort of 4 months of sales streaking. I was rocking, and that's kind of come to a bit of an end now. I'm adapting. I've delivered my training program, the thing that I do most of, virtually now a few times, going down really well. Turns out some of my exercises actually get even better and more interesting when you do them remotely, which was kind of interesting to learn. But yeah, it's hard times. I think we're having to evolve now, and I've started to get over the panic and the negativity side to go, actually, there's a lot of great stuff, and particularly in the world of training and speaking. Yeah, this is going to transform our industry, the way you can deliver stuff, the way you can engage people. It's an opportunity that I think we all need to start thinking about moving forwards.
Yeah, it is interesting because I think people have been forced to innovate. Like, for instance, even here's something we're doing right now. So I'll do this maybe once or twice a month with one guest in front of an audience. We have beer and pizza, and it's a great night.
Nice.
We also live stream it, so I normally have about 3 or 4 cameras dotted about. And there's a team of us, and everyone's around and hugging and selfies and shaking hands. But now it's all at arm's length. So I was going to do this live. I was going to do this 8-hour podcast live in front of the audience. I didn't think for a minute that I'd do it through this bit of software where we're doing all these kind of little bits and pieces. And so I've had to learn. I've learned this. I've invested in this sort of stuff. It works really well.
Yeah, and I have to say, this has been brilliant with the green room and stuff. It actually really flows. And to be honest with you, I was thinking, how are you going to keep going for so long? But after our chat yesterday and stuff, it's very smooth. So and I'm one of those technophobe people that's kind of why I'm the telephone assassin. It's easy to have a conversation with somebody when you've got to figure out how to log in and set something up and go into a portal and all of that. It sometimes can be a bit intimidating, but it's made me go from throwing in a couple of video conferencing calls as part of my training to now being able to deliver full training exercises. The follow-up and the coaching's changing slightly. I think it's made us all up our game.
Yeah, I mean, let's take it to the telephone assassin then, the moniker that you live by. So where'd that come from? What was all that about?
So the last time I had a proper job and was employed was probably about 15 years ago. And I basically used to sell a data profiling tool. So people used to buy databases. They used to think that I wanted to sell them as much data as possible, but it was kind of the opposite. I always used to say, no, I want to sell you a wish list, not a database. And then I would end up writing telesales scripts and helping them to figure out what do you say to warm people up or to do a follow-up with that data. And eventually enough of them said, would you make the calls for me? So I started to do that for a while, got locked into lots of retainers and what have you. But it was precisely saying to people, don't give me a database, just give me a wish list. And people then started to say, well, you're a bit of a telephone assassin, aren't you? And I was like, well, yeah, just give me a hit list. I don't want to sift through thousands of records. I want 10, 20 names of people that if we get in the door, they could make a massive difference to your bottom line, and kind of going whale fishing, so to speak.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Going back to your data, then you were giving them some data, but then you thought, if that data doesn't work, they're going to come back and go, that data was naff. That's your problem, and that's you. No, it's not the data that's a problem. It's the way you approach that data. So it's your telesales script, your follow-up content, that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. So the only way I could make sure they always got a return on investment and wanted to recommend me was to actually get involved and have that strategy type of chat with them. I wasn't just somebody who sold data. And it's interesting because one of my clients who I'm training at the moment has a online marketing platform And one of the things that they're trying to get away from is to be being seen as these platform experts, because they're actually marketing consultants. They know how the platform works and how to use the insight to be really strategic.
Yeah.
But they're sometimes treated and act like product experts. So it kind of, it's nice to get an opportunity to fully engage with a client. So you've worked with lots of different businesses. If one party doesn't want to be there, it makes the whole journey a lot harder, right?
Yeah, but it's also interesting that you can bring lots to the party from working with lots of different businesses and lots of different sectors. So sometimes sectors mightn't be very aligned, but actually they are, because at the end of the day, they're just producing a product or a service that they sell to people. The mechanics are still quite similar, no matter what sector you're in. So I guess there's been a lot of cross-pollination, little bits of tips and tricks you can give your clients.
Absolutely. So I always say, when I teach people to perfect their pitch, I say it doesn't matter if you're a lawyer or a landscaper, the principles work exactly the same.
Exactly.
The best way to perfect your pitch is to share a success story somebody can relate to. So basically use a case study and a testimonial of somebody like them and show it to them. If you look at all the adverts on telly, it's really clever how they all do that. They get their customers to tell you about their experience, but they try and use people from 2 or 3 different demographics or pools of their market to tell that story, because they know it will connect with certain people. So this is why, as businesses, now's a really good time, if you can't sell, but speak to your customers and see if you can start to build up what I would call your credibility library. Build your case studies and your testimonials. And actually, once you start to realize that you've got a great track record in a certain area, it makes marketing really easy and obvious. You just go and target a very particular niche. It's back to this wish list marketing or sniper sales. The way I always describe it is just go and drop off a pizza menu. Okay, don't knock on their door and try and take an order, because that would be rude. But just say, hey, look, this is what we do. You're probably not looking for it right now, but if you are in the future, have a read of this, because you might be interested in what these guys are saying about us. Easy as that.
That leads me nicely into something like LinkedIn then, because obviously you're about telephone and speak. Do you prefer to pick up the phone and do that rather than cold reach out on LinkedIn, where you get that LinkedIn request and then you get that right hook straight in your inbox saying, buy my stuff?
So I think that there's far too many people sending what I would call LinkedIn spam. But there's automated systems and companies out there that try and generate you leads. And usually, as soon as you accept the invite, if within a couple of minutes you end up with paragraphs of emails, it's an automated thing. It feels very spammy. Don't get me wrong, I love LinkedIn. It's my favorite platform. It's people's online CV. And you would get invited into a business for an interview based on your CV. So you can tell a lot about somebody from looking at that information. So it's a great platform. And I think that particularly now, while people are furloughed or people are working from home, I noticed a massive spike in people on LinkedIn. It seems to have dropped off a little bit now. But when this was all kicking off a few weeks ago, and actually, I know clients who are very effectively reaching out with personalized invites to specific people, and they are getting people accept, and then they're sending a short message back or a question to them, just something very quick, or saying, look, could I share this case study with you? Could I offer you a test drive? Can I? And it's amazing, actually, some people will engage, and it's nice. That's the nice thing with email campaigns, is you can look at your click-throughs and open rates, and you can figure out who are the warm ones, who followed the link to my website and actually might be interested in what I do. Because if I know that, then it might be worth picking up the phone. And I think that at the moment, I think people are craving conversations. We're all going a bit stir crazy.
That's really interesting. I've noticed that the phone is ringing a lot more, even Zoom calls like this, which is good, because that's connecting. It's not the end of an email, or it's not the end of a message. So where do you come in, Anthony, in terms of where you like to target? Do you do the warm up first through email and then go in for a phone call? What would you say was the best?
No, typically I just do some research on people beforehand. That way you can stick to their favorite topic of conversation, which is themselves. So if you can do a bit of research, it's easy to flatter somebody and tell them why you're interested in them. If you make it feel like you're dropping off a pizza menu, then it's no more scary than popping a letter through somebody's letterbox. Really, you're just saying, hey, this is what I do. You're probably not looking for what we do right now, which is a really nice way of saying I'm not expecting to close you. And it just disarms people. Once they realize you're not going to be able to sell to them, quite often they will engage in a conversation. And just using really good manners is, so when my friends ask me what the telephone assassin does, I say I teach people good manners and advanced common sense, because if you have good manners, people will engage with you. And from a common sense perspective, if you have a process that you can take them through where it's almost an emotional journey you can take them through, where they come out the end thinking, I want to do business with you. That's the outcome, right? So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. But don't get me wrong, sharing stuff on LinkedIn is a really good way of generating sort of warmer leads or inbound inquiries. So if you get a testimonial, for example, from somebody on LinkedIn, so if you write me a recommendation, I'll wait for a week, typically, just to see if any of your connections look at me, because they might have noticed you've written something nice about me and then decided to check me out. And if I can see that they've looked at my profile and I can see that they're connected with you, as long as they don't have the word recruitment in their job title, I'll usually pick up the phone and go, hey, John, sorry for the random phone call, but I was on LinkedIn. I can see you've been looking at my profile and you're connected with Ian. Did you see what he wrote about me? Is that how you found me? And I just reinforce that good news story. I'll have already thought about past clients I've got similar to him. So I could say, well, look, don't know if I can help you, but why don't I share what a couple of other people in your industry say about me, or with these kind of problems say about me. And it's just you build rapport, establish your credibility, create a bit of urgency by offering a little test drive. Easy.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, what's interesting at the moment on the test drive front is quite a few of my clients are stretching out their test drive. They used to give people a 2-week trial or do something with them, whereas now they're extending it much further. That marketing platform that I mentioned are giving away a 12-week online course, which is actually brilliant, because what it allows the biz dev team to do is act like account managers to people who don't yet have an account, and that's how you nurture your pipeline. And that's what I'm noticing at the moment is people are reluctant to sell. If people are coming to you and finding you and you're dealing with people on the front line, fantastic. But from a prospecting perspective, a lot of people aren't ready to sign on the dotted line. But if you nurture those relationships and you start to build that relationship with them, when the doors open again, open the floodgates and you're ready to go.
I love that, going from biz dev to account management. So what we're saying is, if they've been kind of wedded to us for a couple of months, 3 months, using our product, are you saying that the account managers have got more to talk to them about, or the fact they've wedded it so much that they don't want it to be pulled away from them and they want to keep it, or both? Yeah. Absolutely.
And the other thing that I've asked them to do was to think about the fact that it's a free online course. People are still investing their time, and their time is worth money, so that they should put some form of value to that time, and try and help the client do these various tasks throughout the courses, generate some new leads and some business, so that they can get a return on investment for their time. And the challenge that I've set the team is, well, firstly, who can help their clients generate the most leads, but who can get the ROI first? Because the first one to get their ROI is likely to get their first client say, can I actually sign up to the full product now? Do I have to do the rest of this course? I realize it works. Let's start working together more.
Yeah. So what do you do, Anthony? Are you the outsourced sales or marketing or whatever team? They don't have somebody in house doing what you do, and they employ you to do that, or
the company that I'm talking about at the moment, so they just engaged me to train them. So I spoke at a very big conference for them earlier, at the back end of last year, to lots of their clients who are obviously marketing people typically. And off the back of that, they wanted me to do some training with their team as well. So it was kind of interesting, because their customer service team weren't supposed to be included in the training, and then once they found out about it, wanted to get involved too. Which is lovely. And I just think that at the moment, like I say, people are craving conversations, and there's actually some hard conversations to have, or some awkward conversations to have. And it's easy to send an email. That gets it off your desk, but it usually doesn't complete the task, which is why there are still a few people. I'm still getting inquiries. They're not chomping at the bit and wanting to get things going straight away, but there are people who are ready to invest. They know that they need to upskill their staff at times like this, and they need to be selective about the most useful skills to them right now as well. So
what would you say from a sales point of view that people are lacking right now in terms of the skill set or the knowledge?
It's a bit of a mixture. There's the age-old thing of people don't like cold calling, okay, and I don't really do cold calling, but people don't like making outbound calls, usually from a fear of rejection. And that's typically because they've been cold called by somebody before who was reading a script or was a bit rude and bolshy with them, and they don't want to be perceived like that. And that's good. To be honest with you, they're the best people. The more reluctant people are to make calls, or the more adamant they are that they're not in sales and they're just account managers, they're the best kind of people, because once you change their mindset to the fact of, I'm not asking you to sell, I just want you to go and drop off some pizza menus. Okay. When you empower a account manager to say, well, I tell you what, I've got this great testimonial from one of my clients. Okay. Marketing have turned it into this lovely PDF case study. I'm just going to go and reach out to 10 other companies just like that and say to them, hey there, please excuse the random phone call. I don't normally do this. It's normally our sales guys, but I look after this particular company. And I thought you might be interested to see what they say about us. If you'd like to have a chat with me at some point, just let me know. That's it. It's as simple as that. And what you tend to find is actually just that pre-frame at the beginning, where they allow them to position themselves not as somebody who would normally do this, as in, I'm not in sales. And I get directors of smaller businesses to do this, where they kind of go, sorry for the random phone call. It normally be one of my sales guys, but I'm actually the boss here, and I noticed you on LinkedIn and just thought it'd be worth reaching out. All of a sudden, you can get somebody's attention. It's like, oh, hang on a second. This is not some person sat in a call center or at home virtually in a call center. It's somebody who's switched on. And actually there's, like I say, people are, if they're not stuck on a Zoom call, which a lot of people seem to be booking full hours for video conferencing meetings, when they answer, they're keen to chat, but getting hold of people is harder at the moment. And that's where things like LinkedIn can be a little kind of a useful tool to help you get some of that low-hanging fruit, or see who's being active when they're being active, so that you can kind of strike while the iron's hot. So
that's interesting about being active. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Do you look at their posts and see what kind of content they're sharing and what stimulates them? And yeah, great.
Absolutely. Well, if I can see what you're sharing and what you're commenting, then it will start to give me a much better picture of what you're interested in or what your views are, which make it really easy for me to then angle a conversation. I've even phoned people up who I've wanted to reach out to, and I've waited for them to post an article so I could phone them up to thank you for writing the article.
Excellent stuff.
I've phoned people up before and gone, so I'd be going, oh, hey, and sorry for the random phone call. I wouldn't normally do this, but I've just read your article on LinkedIn, and it's probably the first article in about 3 months that I've got all the way to the bottom of. Thank you so much for writing that. I'm going to share that with some of my clients. And at some point, I'd love to take you for a coffee, because I've got a feeling we could have a really interesting chat. Yeah. That'd be it. And you'd be kind of going, oh, what, my blog? Yeah. Right. Or you kind of go, oh, what, the one that marketing put out on my behalf? Okay?
Yes.
But typically, it makes calls that feel spontaneous don't feel like cold calls. And I think that when you've got a bit of background and you've bothered, we now live in this digital world where most people overshare anyway, right?
Right.
So it gives us all the ammunition we need to kind of go, well, this is what they're like, what they're interested in. You have to be careful. I would tell somebody what I've read about them on LinkedIn, but I probably wouldn't tell them that I've been on their Facebook page.
Yeah, stalking the hell out of them. Yeah,
gets a bit creepy then, but
Suki asks a question here. Do you ring them or email them about the articles? I think I know the answer to this. Telephone us.
Yes, unfortunately, you do need to pick up the telephone. So my tip for everybody, right? So when you ask that kind of question is, if it was me, I would phone, and quite often you're going to get a voicemail. And I usually don't leave a voicemail on my first attempt, particularly if I'm phoning a mobile, because there's a chance that they might call me back. Or that they'll even text me before I've even left a message saying, I'm busy right now, I'll call you back. occasionally I will actually just leave them a voicemail, and it might just be saying, hey Ian, really sorry for the random message. You don't know who I am, but I follow you on LinkedIn, and I just wanted to say I read your article earlier on about X. It's the first one in ages I've got to the bottom of. I think it's really good. I'm going to share it with some of my clients, and at some point I'd love to have a proper chat with you, because I think there's a couple of questions I'd like to ask you, and even a case study of another company who does X that I'd love to share with you. Okay. I'll buzz you a quick email now, and fingers crossed we'll speak soon. Phone down, send a quick email. I tend to go down that route. What you then find is if you always phone before emailing, your email can then be like 2 lines long. Yes. Hey Ian, just left you a message. Can you give me a call back? Such and such. Rather than trying to have the conversation through email, it becomes so stunted or stilted that it's kind of awkward. There's no flow to it. So, like I say, my view is usually an email gets it off your desk. It doesn't complete the task, where a conversation, you can get agreement of what's going to happen next, and you can answer all questions to move forwards.
Let's have a look at Pascal's question here is, who inspires you as a conversationalist?
Oh, interesting. It kind of depends, really. So the person I love listening to speak most is probably Russell Brand, because he's so eloquent. His vocabulary is amazing. That really, I could listen to it all day long. It fascinates me. The descriptive words that he uses, he really paints a proper picture. Okay. Yeah. And to do it with that East End accent at the same time, that kind of Londoner boy accent, you kind of think, actually, that's really interesting to listen to. But I don't know if there's anybody in particular, but my dad, as a child, I used to get annoyed with my dad when I used to ask him questions and he would pause before answering. It was because he was trying to figure out a way of explaining something to me in a way that I would understand. And I would always get frustrated in kind of going, come on, just don't dumb it down. Just tell me the answer. Come on, I'm not stupid. And it would almost irritate me. But he's probably perhaps the biggest influence I've had in my life when it comes to having conversations. And it's only when you're older you realize how great your parents were and are, and all the things that they did that you were totally oblivious to back in the day. So yeah, they're probably, hopefully that answers the question.
That's really good. Thanks for that. Suki's asked a question here about recommending any book recommendations that you can put out there. She's been recommended Way of the Wolf.
So the Wolf of Wall Street, when that came out, I remember getting a few phone calls from people saying, hi, I understand you're the telephone assassin. I want to be a telephone terrorist. And I just sort of laughed, because it's a phrase that really made me laugh. And I remember watching that bit of the film, and what I ended up kind of saying to them is, he lied to people to do the deal, right? Yeah, so basically, before they realized he was lying, he'd already done the deal and he'd moved on, and he'd burnt the bridge, he'd got his money, and he'd moved on to the next one. Whereas if you're not selling stocks and shares over the telephone, that approach probably isn't going to work. And bullying people or talking people into doing something is the way to get that buyer's remorse. And actually, what you should be doing is helping people to decide that they want to buy from you.
Yeah.
So book recommendation would obviously have to be my book, The Telephone Assassin.
There you go.
There we go.
Where can we find that?
You can find it on Amazon, but if you go to my website, which is anthonystears.co.uk, you can buy it on there. And just for you guys, because you're special, use the word special for a discount code, and it takes it down to £10. So you're welcome to do that. Who was it who asked that question? Sorry, I didn't spot the name.
Suki.
If you do buy the book and you want to have a chat once you've had a chance to read it, then my phone number is really easy to find. So give me a phone call and I would love to have a chat.
Excellent. What was the website again?
anthonystears.co.uk.
Excellent stuff. I'm going to try this on the fly again.
Yeah. If you go there, sorry, I know you said I should have sent this all to you. This is where I said I'm slightly technically challenged.
There you go. Is that right?
But go there, you can go to buy the book, and it's just down the bottom. But like I say, use the word special with a capital S, and it will get you a cheeky little discount.
There you go. Suki's on a yes already. Good.
So out of interest, Ian, who have you been phoning?
Who have I been phoning?
Yeah, have you been reaching out to, obviously...
Don't put me on the spot.
Yeah. Have you reached out to any old friends, as in not from a business perspective, just old friends you've drifted away from, people that you've seen pop up on social media?
It's really interesting. So I used to spend a lot of time down in Cornwall, and a friend of mine, Andy, lives down there. And Andy is he's furloughed, so it's really interesting to see people you haven't heard of for a while just come kind of back up again, right, resurface. And it's not because we've lost touch or fell out or anything. It's just because we've had children, being busy at what we do, and now
life gets in the way.
Yeah, and it's funny how I have had a few real random texts or emails, and it's been quite nice actually. And when Andy texted, I set my back, it really lifted me today, because it was one of them days where you might have been struggling and stuff like that. So
absolutely, yeah.
You're dead right.
And we all have those days, right? It's we try and get on screen, and particularly when we present, we have to go into work mode.
And what's really interesting is that your first question was, who have you phoned? I remember doing this on the podcast last year. I said to people, I encourage you now to pick up the phone to someone you haven't heard from a while and just check in with them. And a couple of days later, I got a phone call from a friend of mine. He went, I'm just ringing up because you told us to. We had a laugh, but we had a great conversation. And he said, seriously, you inspired us to ring you.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, fantastic. Awesome. Picking up the phone is fantastic. Yeah.
Well, hopefully that will happen to me, because I've got a list of people who I've been meaning to catch up with for ages that I want to check are okay, that I just wanted to let them know I'm thinking about them. And I think for our own mental health, like you say, just getting that message really lifted you. And if you are worried, because I've had a couple of people that I've been giving some more personal advice to rather than business advice about reaching out to people that they feel bad about. And I think if you take ownership of the fact that you dropped the ball and you're the one that's let it get, I'm sorry that it's been so long since we've spoken, and kind of take ownership for it. Instantly, human nature is that they kind of go, oh God, yeah, no, me too. And all of a sudden nobody's blaming anybody. There's no animosity. There's no guilt or anything. And then the tip is just ask some questions. Ask about other people, a proper selfless conversation that isn't about you.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing how heartwarming it is to hear somebody else's story, and like you say, know that they're in a similar boat or that they're okay. Can make a massive difference.
Definitely. Last one, I think, before we go at the time. How do you find the difference between writing to sell versus calling to sell?
So I am slightly dyslexic. So when it comes to writing, I'm rubbish at it. Typically. It's definitely not my field of expertise. I know there's lots of people out there that if you can write something interesting, you have a good call to action, you can get the value across, great. But quite often, value is in the eye of the beholder. It's a bit like beauty, and you need to have that conversation with somebody to find out what it is they value before you really want to start talking about cost. So writing. I usually use a sentence that's, I didn't say he stole the money. And basically, if you put the emphasis on any one of those words, it totally changes the meaning of the sentence. And I usually use it to torture marketing people who create messaging documents. Because it depends on what mood you're in when you read it to what message jumps out the screen. So if you're going to write to sell, I would say probably less is more, and have a conversation first and then create a paper trail of what you discussed. That's typically my way of doing it, is when people inquire about training, I tell them how the program works and then say, if you want to download all of this off of my website, all the prices, everything's really transparent. It's all up there. Go and have a look. Yeah.
Awesome. Love that.
Easy.
Good stuff. Right. We've got someone waiting in the green room.
Oh, exciting.
I'm trying to find out who I'm going to kick you out with. I might use this cow again, because the cow is really good.
Oh, is it time to move?
Oh my God!
You're definitely
getting booted off of that. Cheers, Andy. See you later, brother.
See you.